Good evening, chat. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to the Thursday night show, episode 194. You know, who keeps track of that? I do. Episode 194. It's like we're almost getting there. The big goal is to get to 200. It's like, dude, 200 of these like in a row. That's been the big thing. That's been the big thing here. So let's do this. All right. So thank you, everybody. Hope you guys had a great day. Hope you had a very nice day. Somebody who asked this here. Did I have a rough day as a deportation judge? No, I have not been hired as an immigration judge yet by the DOJ to help administrate immigration law. I've not had one of those days. I don't know how, that'd be a pretty jam-packed day given the amount of people they're looking to hire. So I don't think it'd be that tiring. Well, hey guys, welcome to the show. We are live in a couple different places tonight. We are live on Rumble. We are live on yes, Rumble is working tonight, chat. So we're live on Rumble. We're live on Rumble. We're live on Kick. We're live on YouTube. We're live everywhere tonight. We got a lot to talk about. Some things that are I mean, there's going to be some stuff we need to talk about. Some of it's pretty serious overall. Then there's some good news out there. One of the things we're going to touch on is Matt Hoover from CRS Firearms, the auto key card guy that Matt LaRosier, Fudbusters, was involved with. He represented him and then helped do his appeal. Matt has actually been released. He's now in a halfway house. I asked Matt, I asked Fudbusters about it, and he says he's doing okay. So that is currently happening. And that's some good news, some very good news. Somebody getting out is never a bad thing to hear. WM Luke Priest says you're no longer potentially on time. Yeah, I was. Started at 9:35. I started at 9:35. So there we go. We're rooting for you. Thank you. Are you signing up to be a deportation judge? I'm throwing my stuff out there. I doubt I'll get noticed. Every time there's been an opening for Supreme Court or anything in the Trump administration, number one or number two, I've sent my stuff in and, never gets noticed. And that's okay. I'm sure Jared and Ivanka look at my stuff and they're like, oh my God, this guy's dangerous. We can't have him here. And they don't tell their dad about me. And that's okay. That happens. And I'm all right with that. That just recognizes I am that much of a threat. You have to have a lot of you have to have a JD, an LLM, or an LLB. So, yes, basically you need to have a law-focused degree. You can't just be like, bro. It doesn't work that way. So that you do need some. You do need some legal training. Yeah, you can't just wing it like that. If that helps make sense. All right, chat. So we are gonna get started here in a minute. Let me catch up on any chance we're gonna Clyde sign tonight? Well, let me see. Let's see if Clyde. Come here, Bubba. He's like with 2.0, and he's like, she's like, tell him to get up because he's like just laying on top of her. Come here, Clyde. He's like laying on her legs in the blanket, all wrapped up, and he's like, I'm so snuggly. Come here, buddy. Come here, Clyde. And she's like about to kick him because he's like all wrapped up in the blanket down by her feet, and I can't fake my credentials like the school superintendent. I mean, hey, it worked for him. On a Wall says over on Rumble chat, I don't think you pass a background check. My boss applied once. I mean, I might not. And if that's the case, oh well. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, what's up, babe? Clyde, come here, buddy. Oh, here we go. I hear the click-clacks. Hi, buddy. Hello. Hey. Oi. Clyde, come here. Clyde, where's your Clyde treats? Hold on. There they are. Come here, buddy. Come on. Hey. Clyde. Come here, bud. Hey, come here. Come on. Oh, there we go. Oh, yep. Oh, yes, we got him. There we go, chat. We got him. Whoa, whoa. Whoa, buddy. All right. All right. Calm down. Look, you can see he's all like sleepyhead. His ears are all flopped around. Treats are integral. Yeah, well, when he's like all ready to sleep and stuff, yeah, that's kind of a thing for him. So it makes sense. It makes sense. But anyways, see, he's got like bedhead. He's a tired old doggo. He's tired. He's very eepy. As soon as I set him down, he's going to be like, okay, bye, fat man. And he's going to go like, goodbye. And go back and sleep on top of 2.0. Are you going to go back and snuggle, huh? Can you snuggle with me? Aww. Aww. Clyde is greening out. Not yet. There's no grass out there for him to roll around in, so. But he's such a bestest boy. Such a good dog. Such a good dog. Does 2.0 know about Lainey and Clyde getting in trouble? Yes. Yes, she does. That's okay. Yes. There we go. Okay. So I can set you on the ground, okay, buddy? We got to get to the show. It's time to go. All right. There we go. All right, chat. How does Clyde react to snow? He actually likes it. He'll go run around. Wait, we still have snow outside. Doesn't faze him at all. It's actually a problem because if he goes outside and you're in bed and he comes back in, it's all over his paws and he's all cold. He doesn't mind it. He's a nice little furry dog. So he goes out there and he comes back in and you're in bed and he like climbs up on the top of the bed and tries to go down in between the sheets. And you're like, oh, God, it's cold. He's cold and he's wet. But yes, he does very much. It's a little rough there. It's a little rough when he comes into. It's a little rough when he does that, or if you're just sitting there like watching TV or something, or reading a book or something, and you hear him come in and he jumps up on top of you and he's cold and you're not ready for it. It's a bit of a problem. It's a bit of a problem. But other than that, it's okay. Yeah, he doesn't mind the cold, and that's the thing. Because he goes outside and just barks. And people, last year we had a problem. 2.0, we went out to dinner, and we came back, and the police had tried to call us. And I didn't realize who they were at the time, but I listened to the voicemail, and they're like, yeah, we heard your dog barking, and we thought it got left outside as soon as we walked around the back. Like, they invaded my curtilage, chat. But they walked down they walked up to the back gate, and the gate in the backyard, and they shined the flashlight on him. And Clyde's just standing there on the porch barking at him. And as soon as they shined the light on him, he ran inside. And they're like, okay. They're like, we realize your dog's okay now. But, like, he does that. He'll just stand outside and fucking, in the summertime, he'll do it too. So, like, depending on the night, if he's acting like an asshole, we have to put the little drop down on the doggy door because he just goes outside like 3 a.m. and barks his fucking head off like an asshole. So that's how they do that. I love how Sean and Clyde blend together seamlessly. Thank you. Thank you, Vinyl. Is he Lhasa Apso, Gene? A little bit. He's like part Lhasa Apso. He's part Chow Chow. A lot Shih Tzu. Hold on here. Actually, I can bring it up because we did the 23andMe thing for the dogs. Let me see if I can find it here. Let me see. All right, hold on, guys. Where the heck are they? Speaking of that, it sounds like Clyde's running outside and barking now. So, but we did a We did the Embark thing for Clyde. It's where they do the 23andMe for your dog, and it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting how they kids scan through all of it. Let me see here. Hold on. Video. Yeah, I don't see it, guys. Sorry. I'll try to find another point, but yeah, he's like 35-40% Shih Tzu, and then he's got a little Lhasa Apso, a little Chow Chow, a little bit of Terrier, a little bit of everything, But he's 100% good boy. He has to warm up his snow cones. Do you Dutch oven Clyde? No, he Dutch ovens himself if he goes down there. He knows what's going to happen. No, most of the time he just sleeps like down by our feet. Or every once in a while, he'll come up in between me and 2.0, and he'll be, he'll basically kind of look at us, and then he turns around, and then he faces our feet, and then, sleeps with his butt in between us. So, yeah, Jim, you're saying Matt Hoover got released? Yes, he did. He's in a halfway house now, so the Bureau of Prisons released him. So that's some good news. Like I said, very good news. VSO Gun Channel, Kurt over there at the VSO Gun Channel talked about it. John Crump talked about it. But yes, Matt Hoover is getting out. So I live in a gay neighborhood. You know what? I care that my neighbors care. That's nice. All right, guys, real quick. We got some super chats, so we'll get started here. Richard Gruber for $5 with the evergreen and timely AK-47 drum magazine. Says, hold on. I'm watching my team lose to the Penguins. Oh, no. Who are the Penguins playing tonight? Oh, the Lightning. Oh, well, I guess, I remember when the Lightning was a brand new team. And then Parallax been a member for 37 months. Let's fucking go, Chet. That's a long time. Thank you for being here, Parallax. Thank you for all your help too. It says, do you need a paralegal? Russell Greer needs a job. Yes. I plan on talking about that tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's show might be a little late, chat. We have it is gun season for deer in Ohio this week. I haven't been able to go out. Obviously, things have precluded me from doing that, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the final days of the gun season here in Ohio, so I'm going to go out and maybe get to kill something. Maybe I do. So that'll be the game plan. So Friday afternoon, I'm going to go out, and then I'll be back, and we'll probably hang out and do stuff. Should be fun. Let's see here. All right, so it's time to get started here, chat. Let's get started with some stuff. I guess the first things first, we'll start off with a real quick Supreme Court update. This is actually going to be pretty fucking big. This is huge. This is huge, chat. If you guys remember, this is the state of Texas after its current gerrymandering, which, we're now learning apparently that's a bad word, gerrymandering, but it wasn't before. But now we are seeing it. And from here, chat, this is, wipes out the Democrats in Texas. I mean, you have just these little bits, like you have Austin, you have San Antonio, you have El Paso, and then you have down here in Dallas. But look at the additions. These are brand new, redrawn districts that give the Republicans a massive thing here. So remember, there were people challenging this. The Fifth Circuit, people had challenged this, and they're claiming it's racist and unfair. And whoa. Well, we're now dealing with it And from here, oh, you still think Tweller's going to win in Texas 28? Maybe. What I just circled was Houston, not Austin. Oh, well, okay. I'm sorry, Texas people. Okay, hold on. Let me refresh. Dallas. I forgot Houston's right here. I keep thinking Houston's on the coast for some reason. But anyway, this is Houston. I think this is Austin. I think that's San Antonio. I don't know. I don't fucking know Texas. All I know is that's where the queers live. The queers and the steers. So that's all I know there. So what has happened? What has happened? So remember, this was all being stopped in the process, the Fifth Circuit. We saw, and I haven't got the chance to get to it yet because the judge does 168-page dissent. Was actually going to talk to Ryan Mullally, Kurt, see if they wanted to go through it with me because it's very interesting. In the meantime, though, since you're at the Fifth Circuit and things don't go your way, there's a place, Donald Trump has a place he can go where everybody knows his name. And at least for 6 of them, routinely, they're always glad he came. So the Supreme Court, and it's in case of Greg Abbott versus the League of United Latin American Citizens. It's an application for a stay. And they point out that with an eye on the upcoming 2026 midterms, several states have in recent months redrawn their districts in a way that are predicted to favor the state's dominant political party. Yep. Texas has done it. Ohio has done it. Ohio's GOP kind of cucked out and didn't go for the throat. Indiana, though. Indiana finally found its balls and is pushing hard. Anyways, Texas adopted the first map, then California responded with its own map, which is hilarious. California's only doing it because of Texas. North Carolina followed suit. We also have the one in Louisiana that is now from 2020 now into 2024. We're now dealing with it again. And other states are also considering maps. So here we go. So what happened from here? Well, there was a highly divided 3-judge district court agreed and enjoined the use of the new map of the 2026 elections. With the 26 campaign underway, the state of Texas and several of its officials applied for a stay, which you need in this situation. You need it. It says, based on our, and guys, I apologize, it's a 3-judge district court. It wasn't the Fifth Circuit. My apologies there. They said, anyways, they say Texas does satisfy the traditional criteria for interim relief. They think Texas is likely to succeed on the merits of its claim. And that the district court committed 2 errors. First, it failed to honor the presumption of legislative good faith by construing the ambiguous, direct, and circumstantial evidence against the legislator. And it says, second, the district court failed to draw a dispositive or near dispositive adverse inference against the respondents, even though they didn't produce a viable alternative map that met the state's avowedly partisan goals. And they say, Texas also made a strong showing of irreparable harm and the equities of public interest favor it. And it says they point out that lower federal courts should ordinarily not alter the election rules on the eve of an election. Even though it's 2026, we are technically on the eve of it. And this is the RNC versus the DNC out of 2020. And it says the district court violated that rule here. It improperly inserted itself into an active primary campaign, causing much confusion and upsetting the delicate federal-state balance in elections. Now, because Texas in the Fifth Circuit was presented to Justice Alito, and by him referred to the court, is granted. The November 18th order entered by the United States District Court for the Western District of Texas is stayed, pending the timely filing of an appeal in this court. Should a notice of appeal and jurisdictional statement be timely filed, this order shall remain in effect pending the court's action. If the appeal is dismissed or the judgment is affirmed, this order will terminate in the event the jurisdiction is noted or blah, 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 blah. So anyways, who did this? Well, you have Alito, Uncle Clarence, and Justice Gorsuch join concurring in the grant. So we know already it's 3. But remember, you don't have to make in a application like this. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to comment on it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything on these guys. Remember, you can just say, hey, I'm done. I'm here. Now, we get to this, and Justice Gorsuch concurs, and he says, I join the order. And they says, Texas needs certainty. And he's like, so I won't delay the court's order by writing a detailed response to each of the dissent's arguments. He's like, we ain't got time for this shit. He's like, TL, DR. You know, Gorsuch just said TLDR, chat. Instead, I offer 2 points, which are decisive for me. And they point out first, the dissent does not dispute, because it is indisputable, that the impetus for the adoption of the Texas map was partisan advantage, pure and simple. Which is true. They're doing this to make the Democrats suffer. So it's not a race thing. It's not a racism thing. It's not a discrimination thing. It's fuck Democrats thing. So then who cares? Who cares? That's not illegal. And he says, second, the clear air standard review does not apply here because the trial court based its findings upon a mistaken impression of applicable legal principles. And it says, because of correlation between race and partisan preference, litigants can easily use claims of racial gerrymandering for partisan ends. And he says, to prevent this, our precedent placed the burden on the challengers to disentangle race and politics. Thus, when the asserted reason for a map is political, it is critical for challengers to produce an alternative map that serves the state's allegedly partisan aim just as well as the map the state adopted. So if it's all political, you have to produce a map. So they're going to produce a map where the Democrats are still getting fucked. And that hasn't been done. Once again, the Democrats are just upset it's happening. And it says, although respondents experts could have easily produced such a map if that were possible, they did not. Giving rise to strong inference, a state's map was indeed based on partisanship and not race. Yes, because remember, chat, you would have to figure out how to make the equivalent of this. Oh, well, we're worried about all the racial stuff. Okay, we'll fix that. Well, we can't. That's because it's a political map. Neither the duration of the district court's hearing nor the length of its opinion provides an excuse for failing to apply the correct legal standards set out clearly in our case law. So that is for them. Now, what do you see here? Well, you see a dissent. So Kagan, Sotomayor, and Jackson dissent. So what does this tell us right now? Well, it's not a surprise. It's 6-3. It's a 6-3 case. And that is... Yes, it's not a race thing. It's a based thing. And yes, another win for Hot Wheels. So good news if you're out of Texas. Your congressional map is going to survive now. So good news. Good news if you're a Democrat. Yeah, it's going to suffer. Suffering time. It's suffering time, which I know you might not be interested in. I know you might not be interested in chat, but, you know, as they say, it is what it is. It is what it is. And as much as I hate that damn statement, yeah. So, all right. Now, moving on from there, kind of the biggest thing, actually, real quick here. Some of you guys have some comments here. Let me see here. Diane says, watch Wisconsin for the midterms. Yeah, there's a lot of states in play. Wisconsin is now one of the swing states. It's one of the battlegrounds. You know, and remember, 20 years ago, Ohio was a battleground. Florida was a battleground. And nope, those are solid turf one way or another. Now it's Wisconsin and Arizona. So I agree. And Lolita Smiles says, I haven't been on one of Sean's lives in months. Well, yeah, good to see you back again. Good to see you again. Hope everyone's been well. Yeah, we're all doing good. Graham says, Wyoming's map is so unfair. There's not a single Democrat congressman. I know. It's all red, chat. No. Oh. Oh, yes. And then Tech Guy South says, yeah, like I said, this is one of those times where Family Guy is correct, where the dogs are out barking. It's just, I'm a dog. Can you hear me? And the other dog's like, yes, I am a dog as well. They just go back and forth all night. But yeah, that's what Clyde's doing. He's like, hello. Are you a dog out there? And Richard Gruber says, my team lost when Gary called a hand pass on a guy trying to not get hit in the face with a puck. Well, wait, if he just blocked it like that, that's not a hand pass. That's kind of weak sauce. It's kind of weak sauce. You're not like, you guys, hand passing is not, it's frowned upon in hockey. So, but yeah, you're allowed to protect your face. So, refs suck. And that's kind of a tale as old as time. All right, guys. So we're going to move on. We're going to get into the big story for tonight. Really the biggest story. And this is something things don't add up for me. But it's the January 6th bomber. And, for those of you who kind of forgot about this, on the evening of January 5th, this person here, was seen haunting around the RNC and DNC and put some pipe bombs down that ended up not going off. So this is one of the people. Now, people have been saying this is Marjorie Taylor Greene. There was the more recent thing where it was the crazy lady who worked for the DC the Capitol Police, who allegedly shot into the crowd on January 6th and now works as like some security detail at the CIA, using gait analysis. Yeah, wasn't it the lesbian cop? That's exactly who we're talking about. There have been a bunch of people who claim they know who it is. There are a bunch of people they know who it is. Well, we actually do have an update on this, and taking it away to Jake Tapper, I think he can explain us best who it is and what happened here. So take it away, Mr. Tapper. Tell us about this man as we get started here. Jake Tapper is going to tell us what's up.
Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white...
Oh, come on, we got to turn this up. Sorry. Well, I got quiet. There we go. Here we go, chat, so you can hear it.
Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with
That is the darkest white guy I've ever met or ever seen. A 30-year-old white man. He's white. It do be like that, Mr. Tapper. It do be like that. Yes, he's slightly off-white. I agree. Yeah, it's like, what? Anyway. Well, my face, I'm off. Depending on what we talk about enough, chat, very quickly, this could easily... Oh, here we go. There we go, chat. It's like, no, not like this. My face isn't showing up here yet. Not yet, chat. Not yet. Anyways, this is him. Anyway, yes, a 30-year-old white man. We'll let Jake Tapper keep going for a second.
Reporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the...
So there you go. His name is Brian Cole Jr. Yeah, he just came out of the coal mine. So from here, guys, this is where I'm a little... So here's what Brian Cole Jr., Brian J. Cole got charged with. The United States District Court for the District of Columbia, because it was in the District of Columbia. We're going to get into this here. So this got filed on 12/3/2025. And, on the January 5th, 2021, in the county of Washington, in the District of Columbia, you're like, wait, what? Yes, it has a county, technically, which makes sense. Anyways, he was charged with 2 counts under 18 USC 844D, an explosive device, transportation in interstate commerce with the intent to kill, injure, or intimidate. Yep, or destroy any building, vehicle, or real property. And yes, chat, a bomb is meant to destroy. Bomb is meant to destroy. Bombs do bomb things. What is the bomb? What does the bomb say? Boom! Then there's another one, 18 USC 844I, malicious destruction or attempted malicious destruction, which, is there any other kind of, if you're making pipe bombs, is there any other kind of destruction? It's pretty malicious when you're going to do there. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So, from here, guys, we're actually going to get into the complaint, because this tells us a lot of things. But even then, you're like, I don't know about this. Some of this is kind of weird. So this is the complaint with the arrest warrant for him. And this is where, once again, guys, just as we start reading this, we're going to get into this. All right. So what do we need to know about this? Well, I'm not worried about the guy's introduction, age, and background. He's an FBI agent since 2009. He's a long-term glowy. Blah, 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 blah. So it talks about the guy, Brian J. Cole. And he brought bombs to the Republican National Committee and the Democrat National Committee in Washington, D.C. And then from here, let's actually get to what happened. So the background. At 1 p.m. on January 6th, multiple law enforcement agencies received reports of suspected improvised explosive devices, which, yes, chat, technically, if you make a bomb at home, you're doing an improvised explosive device. That is... It is technically how you do it. If you're not doing it professionally, it's improvised. In the vicinity of the RNC in Washington, D.C., at 1:15 p.m. on the same day, a second IED was reported a few blocks away near the DNC. And I remember when that shit happened, I was like, what the fuck? And I thought, oh, they're probably fakes. No, it turns out they were real. So the hazardous device section, meaning the bomb squad, of the United States Capitol Police responded and performed a render safe procedure on both devices, which means they likely blew them up, which is a way you can destroy them. Subsequently, the FBI says that the 2 devices were both IEDs, which contained a main explosive charge, a fusing system, and a container, which, chat, if you're wanting to basically break down the components of a bomb, we're doing academic study tonight, chat. This is the academic study section, so if you feel so inclined, hold on here, guys. I don't know. We all have our roles. We all have our things we do. I love Emily Baker. I love Andrea Burkhart. But tonight we're gonna just if you want to take notes, take some notes. Take some notes, guys. Here we go. This will be on a quiz at some point. The FBI also assessed the IEDs used a hard metal container, metal pipe, nipples, and end caps. So what is a pipe nipple, guys? That is the pipe with the threaded ends. And then pipe caps. This is like build pipe bomb 101. Now remember, chat, as discussed to Terminator, when you are putting together a pipe bomb and you're using screw-on caps, you have to wipe the threads clean to make sure you don't catch any explosive material in the threading as you're screwing on the caps, because you don't want to detonate the shit while you're holding it. So be very careful. Static electricity and friction are dangerous when you're making bombs. They also determined these characteristics president. The FBI recovered components of the disrupted devices, meaning they had to use the wreckage that was blown up. They were processed as evidence submitted to the FBI. The FBI laboratory issued a report regarding the two devices, opining that the items consisted of two detonated bombs, and that the use of a hard metal container showed the characteristics were present. Yes. The IEDs were more commonly known as pipe bombs. Both IEDs were manufactured using, also, the reason why they use IED now, improvised explosive device, it gets you to go, oh, IEDs, terrorism, no! That's what they're going for. That's what they're going for here. A collection of parts here. So the components included a 1x8-inch pipe. That's kind of you can make a bigger pipe. End caps attached. Yep. A 14-gauge electrical wire in red and black, which, chat, you can make them all one color, but there's a high risk of accidentally hurting yourself. So follow electrical procedures. You have your positive and negative and a ground. Alligator clips to connect the wires, which this is what soldering irons were invented for, class. A 9-volt battery. Okay. A 9-volt battery connector. A white kitchen timer. And you might be thinking of, like an egg timer where you turn in the knob. No, this is going to be like one of those little ones where it's like beep, 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 beep. Paper clips, probably as connectors. Steel wool. And a homemade black powder. Okay. So, review of the footage on the evening of January 5th shows that the pipe bombs were placed by the same individual. The individual was observed on surveillance in the surrounding neighborhood between 7:34 and 8:18 p.m. In the video, the individual is wearing dark pants, a gray hooded sweatshirt, and dark gloves, Nike Air Max Speed Turf shoes, and a face mask that obscured the face. Now, in the future, chat, just so you're aware too, a way you can also avoid having your face seen is if you take a little infrared light and have it like right here in your face, you can blur it out, and it's basically like you have a halo going. Free tip on that one. The surveillance footage shows the individual adjusting his eyeglasses at times. The video surveillance also shows the individual carrying a backpack. The footage shows the individual traveling on foot through the surrounding neighborhood, including portions of the route traveled between the locations. DC's got 1 million cameras so they could track him, ring cameras, things like that. Throughout the surveillance, the FBI recreated the path of travel and timestamps along the way. The individual placed the pipe bomb at the DNC at 7:54 and the RNC about 20 minutes later. The FBI, and here's where it goes. In January 2021, the FBI conducted a reverse projection photogrammetry examination, a height analysis of the individual. The height analysis indicated that the distance from the ground to the top of the individual's head was 5 feet 7 inches with an error rate of plus or minus 1.1 inches. Now here we get to this is still, I've got some questions. Here. The identification of Brian Cole Jr. Brian Cole is a 30-year-old resident of Woodbridge, Virginia. He is 5 feet 6 inches tall and wears corrective glasses. And yes, we saw that. He lives in a single-family house with his mom and other family members. He works in the office of a bail bondsman in Northern Virginia. Yes, Cole's family works with basically helping. One of the things they do is provide bond and bail to immigrants in immigration cases, getting them out on a bond. So this is where it's a bit of an issue here for me. And just so you guys understand, if you guys want to play in these games, they look back hard. The purchasing of bomb making equipment. So the guy had 1 bank account and 6 credit cards, and they were used. The FBI obtained the records for the checking account and 3 credit cards from January of 2018 to January 2021. Guys, this is the thing. Remember how we talked about this before. The feds and the police are going to look deep in your purchasing histories. So if you're going to buy something, you got to go back. You've got to, I'm not saying to go do this, but I mean, you have to buy shit now and use it 15 years later. And who knows how far back they're going to start looking. But, they went back 2 years prior, 3 years prior. Which, this is where it starts getting a little weird. So, over the past 3 years, he'd been buying bomb components. It's like, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. I don't know about this, chat. So, 3 additional credit cards were obtained for the time period of January 18 to November 25. The FBI reviewed the transaction history for all accounts. So, Cole purchased multiple items consistent with the things here. So, what did he do? Both pipe bombs were from 1x8 galvanized pipe with markings consistent of a particular manufacturer's product labeling. I can't wait till I wish Ordnance Lab or Brendan Herrera does a clone of the pipe bomb. So he purchased a total of 6 galvanized pipes of this size and shape on or about June 1, June 8th, and November 16th of 2020. The purchases were made at 2 different Home Depots in Northern Virginia. According to the pipe manufacturer, 26,000 of these pipes items were sold in 2020, and over 22,000 of these items were sold to Home Depot, and that's actually pretty common. Both pipe bombs were manufactured using end caps, screw-on caps that were close to the ends of the pipe. Yep. Pipe bombs placed outside the RNC and DNC contained a mix of both black and galvanized end caps. The end caps had markings consistent with the pipe manufacturer's product labeling. Cole purchased a total 12 black end caps and 2 galvanized end caps from 4 different Home Depots in Northern Virginia. Look, guys, all the way going back to 2019. And then in early 2020, 233,000 of these were made, and almost all these were sent to Home Depots. Now it says both pipe bombs were manufactured using a 9-volt battery connector with attached red and black wires. And guys, what are they talking about there? Well, it's, the 9-volt battery connector, guys, is just this thing here. Hold on. Why is this not coming up? All right, here we go. These are things that we all have access to. You guys can all buy. These are just simple components. Very simple and innocuous components. A 9-volt battery connector. A 9-volt battery connector. My chat, we're just remember, it's academic study purposes only, chat. We're not doing anything wrong. First Amendment. The 9-volt battery connector using the pipe bombs had identifying information on the black and red insulated wires that were consistent with those distributed in North America by a known company and its predecessors. He purchased 5 of the 9-volt distributors, 9-volt battery connectors from Micro Center in Northern Virginia on or about November 12th and December 28th, 2019. He also includes cash purchases made during the December transaction. So, guys, not even the fact that he used a credit card. But if it's cash, how do they know where to look? Is it because they knew of this guy? Is it because somebody was, talking to him? Was there a human source here, a confidential source? Was there somebody with him? How would they know? How would they know? Things that make you go, Things that make you go, But they point out fewer than 8,000 of these connectors were distributed in the U.S. Yeah, and it's true. Not many people need them. Both pipe bombs were manufactured using a white kitchen-style timer. He purchased these from a Walmart in Northern Virginia on or about June 3rd, 2020. Yeah, guys, I mean, this is they are, remember, you're leaving a paper trail. You're leaving a paper trail, guys. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. And when you're talking about kitchen timer, guys, once again, we're talking about something as simple as this. This is something as simple as this, and you might say, wait, how does that work? Well, it just takes a little bit of soldering and attaching to the part of the circuit where the noise comes out of. that beep, 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 and that's an activated circuit, which then you have the two wires come out from, and they go into well, in this case, you probably need to do some things like boosting the voltage, but then you have that then go into your detonating setup. So he bought timers 6 months in advance. Yeah, but remember, they went back even further to figure out what he's doing. But yes. But that's what they use, and it's probably even simpler than that one right there. Notice they're not going to show you a picture, chat, because they don't want to encourage. Both pipe bombs used a mix of 14 gauge red and black wire. He purchased a bunch of red and black wire in 2019 and in 2020. The purchases of red and black electrical wire were made at one Home Depot and one Lowe's location. Both pipe bombs were packed with steel wool. And, that's not really going to do it for you, but okay, that seems kind of like a little bit of a goofiness there. But hey, make your bomb how you want. Make your bomb how you want, chat. I'm not going to get in the way of that. That's why you should shoplift. It's like, well, I guess. I don't encourage you to steal. So in addition to purchasing all this stuff, he bought other things. He bought safety glasses, chat. Remember, safety squints. Safety first. You only get one set of eyes. A wire stripping tool. Wire nuts. Sandpaper. He bought a file. I'm sure he bought just basically like a mill file. Actually, I wonder what kind of if you're buying just a generic file from like Home Depot, it's probably like a bastard mill file. Anyway, and he got protective gloves and disinfecting wipes, which, yes, you wipe down your fingerprints, chat. Always thinking. Always thinking. And it says, following the placement of the pipe bombs, Cole continued to make purchases of components used in bomb making. For example, after this, he purchased one more kitchen timer and more batteries from Walmart. He bought more pipes. I'll give him credit, man. He was going to keep going. Homie was going to keep going. On the best around. No one's ever going to keep you down. Oh. Oh, and Kaz, you're bringing up a great point. Yes, this guy probably doesn't own tools. So it's going to look really weird. But that's the thing. Like, I've got wire strippers. I've got pipes for making pipe shotguns. I've got end caps. I've got stuff. I've got a bunch of things out there. I've got wire and different things sitting around. I've got a soldering iron. Oh, yes. Yes. So they talk about he even bought more steel wool. He bought different 9-volt connectors. He bought various alligator clips. Once again, chat, alligator clips are not reliable. They won't stay affixed. You're going to have to do things like soldering. But notice this guy probably couldn't solder, so he didn't do it that way. But no, you don't. In wire nuts is kind of like these must have looked goofy as shit. But there's sleekness and simplicity. Sleekness and simplicity, chat. So as early as January 5th, 2021, Cole, and this is where, once again, we get into some stuff. Why did we not do this yet? Why did we not do this? There's a lot of questions here. Cole's been the user of a specific telephone associated with a cell phone number. Okay. So the FBI obtained historical cell site records associated with the cell towers for the relevant time period on January 5th. Which is part of the issue. How could they not have fucking found this guy at this point? It took them over 4 years to do this. Almost 5 years. This is where the bullshit detector starts going off. This is where the bullshit detector is going off. Historical records associated with the cell towers give points of time when the cell phone engages in a transaction with the cell phone tower. That could be a voice call, text messages, or other data usage. Sometimes your GPS and locations for your apps, it'll engage the towers. So It can include a user's active use of a phone, navigating, users' passive use of a phone, such as an application refreshing data. So the records obtained from the cell phone providers that provide service to Cole included historical cell sites with the location of the network on January 5th. Records include locations of all that. And it says each provider's cell phone towers in the vicinity of the RNC and DNC have sectors that provide coverage for that tower. Each sector of a cell phone tower provides approximately 120 degrees of coverage. And that's the thing, Chad. A cell phone tower doesn't go all the way. It does like an arc. It's got an arc it operates on, not a full, like, it's not like a radar set like that. And it says, due to real-world conditions and various forms of interference, the actual coverage of any particular day can extend beyond 120 degrees or be limited less than 120 degrees. And it said for each tower, these sites show the particular sector of this, and the FBI's Cellular Analysis Survey team has analyzed the location of the Cole cell phone on January 5th. There's no fucking way that they just now figured this out. There's no way they are just figuring this out. Records show the cell phone connected with the provider's cell phone towers consistent with being in the area of the RNC and DNC on January 5th. The Cole cell phone engaged in approximately 7 data session transactions between 7:39 and 8:24. The historical cell data site shows the specific tower for each transaction. And there were 7 times these towers basically were engaged. 7:39, 7:44, 7:59, 8:14, 8:23, and 8:24. And from here, that's how they start pinning it down. Now, the big thing is, how did they know to look at this guy? Once again, this goes back to the idea of this guy using cash. And nobody knew, like, there's no way to track cash. How would you know where he went? How would you know what he did? It's almost like they knew where to look. Because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't make sense. But, well, we'll run with it for now. So, anyways, they talk about where was he at. Well, he was on, he interacted with a cell phone tower that was near G Street in Southwest Washington. He also was interacting with various cell phone towers here, and they show all the towers that ping off. And I think somebody's actually done a map on Twitter. You can see how all the towers pinged out. But they, now here's the problem. Already by April 2021, the provider updated the direction of this sector as facing east. The FBI's drive test conducted in January and February show results from this sector that were consistent with a particular sector facing east. So already in January and February, they were figuring this out in 2021. What took 4 years? What took 4 years, chat? I don't know. So they talk about these tests were inconsistent with different things that were going on. They point out that Cole's the owner of a Nissan Sentra. Okay, memes are appropriate here, chat. Memes are appropriate. So on January 5th, his Sentra was observed driving past a license plate reader at the South Capitol Street exit from Interstate 395, which is less than 1/2 mile from where the individual who placed the first bombs was observed, near North Carolina and New Jersey avenues. 5 minutes later, his cell phone began to interact with provider towers in the area. Now, from here, they analyzed his purchase history associated with the accounts. And that, here's the thing, between January 18th and January 2021, Cole made a total of 5 purchases within DC. Now, here's where it goes. Approximately 3 weeks before the bombs were placed, Cole made a purchase at a restaurant located near 1st and D Streets, Southeast. The restaurant is located across the street from the entrance to Rumsey Court on D Street, Southeast. What does that mean? He was doing reconnaissance. And, just like Luigi Mangione, you conduct reconnaissance, you got to go out and blend in. The problem is you leave a trail where you're at. But his reconnaissance here, December of 2020, that's you're kind of coming too close. You should something like the RNC or the DNC, a stable fixed position. You shouldn't be in a situation where you got to do that much kind of route reconnaissance like that. If you're doing that, you have to do it a little earlier, a little sooner. The problem is, though, too, like, let's say use Google Street View. They could track that shit where you looked and how you looked at things. So, well, yes, he did some things right. He planned his work and he worked his plan. So anyways, for all the reasons here, he declares it a penalty of perjury. This affidavit is true and correct to the best of his knowledge, somebody from the FBI. So there we go. There we go, chat. And this is just stuff at this. I'm a little concerned about how this guy was known. How do they figure him out and how this all went? So the bombs weren't set properly. And that's a problem when you do this. And I think the bigger thing is from this guy, a kitchen timer doesn't have enough voltage to make a thorough connection of something to go. The circuitry is not there. There are things you can do to boost that circuitry. One of the easiest ways to boost that circuitry, chat, and I've talked about it before, is, well, hold on. Where is... I don't have my phone with me. Oh, well. Your cell phone. Your cell phone is a great example of boosting circuitry. The problem is that you got a phone that's running, but hey, if you're setting a bomb, you're setting a bomb. So, you don't have to be a super secret squirrel electrician and all stuff, but you got to know some basic electrical things. There are different things you can do. Yeah, you could have some diodes. You could have different little things going on. As far as it goes, there are ways, like I said, there are ways you can do it. You could go here on YouTube, and there's some kind of interesting things here. You know, if you want to know how to use like there's all different ways you can do this. There are ways to, as people have demonstrated before, you can use your cell phone to connect circuit boards. There is, you know, and this is a great example of it here. This
A diode?
This chat is a YouTube video called Trigger or Deactivate Any Circuit with a Call to Your Cell Phone. Now, this guy is using a big, very easy to use and work with thing here. But as he does this, he's using an older Nokia phone. But you could do this with a brand new iPhone. You could do this with a brand new Droid. And, he shows you what you do. You got to do a little bit of soldering work. Make sure you don't bridge your pins. But, yeah, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to do this stuff. Yeah, you can use MOSFETs and relays to make too much sound. Sure. Yep, there's ways you can do this. And if you want to, guys, as far as looking for electronics being used to set off things, a very common source they do this in are videos for people playing with fireworks and model rocketry, where you don't want to have to sit there next to your stuff. As a kid, I had model rockets, and I had the little electric starter set. So you'd take the wires and you'd wire it up to the fuse, and you'd have like the NiCad wire, and you'd have it wired up, and you'd run the wiring back, and you'd hook it up to the, basically the blaster box, and you put a 9-volt battery in it, and it would generate a current. That current would heat up the NiCad wire, which would cause the fuse to ignite, and just the rocket would take off. So, like, kids can buy that. You can buy this stuff. It exists. It's all out there. It's not impossible. This is also just, once again, guys, you can do various things here, like this guy here.
Hi there. This is my third prototype of my firework.
Now, this is an old video, chat, but it's a time detonator circuit for fireworks.
Primer. This is my second prototype. I didn't make a video of it because it's nice, big, and bulky. I went on to make this one right here. As you can see, they're getting much smaller, and it's actually controlled by your average dollar store kitchen timer. This is the main circuit. I'm going to plug it in to a 9-volt source. This is the power source to the 9-volt, or sorry, to the circuit. And this will activate the nichrome wire at the end of my circuit. All right. So I've got this set up for 1 minute. So I'll activate it, and I'll tell you a bit about the circuit. Okay, so this will offer about 20 millivolts from the piezo buzzer inside. So I need to amplify that to give me enough voltage for TTL, which is roughly 3.5 to 5 volts. So I run that signal through an operational amplifier, which then goes to...
Now, this sounds great, chat, but there are other options available. If you want to learn basic electrical stuff, you can use something like this guy.
To the program. Press the set button.
You guys can, this guy shows you how to use these things that are off of Amazon now that have all kinds of wiring setups and everything put together. You could buy these on Amazon for a couple of bucks, and they have the circuitry built into them. So you're like, yes, DSP had a 5-hour meltdown video. P-Dub says 5 volts. Will that be on the exam? Maybe, chat. But like I said, there's all like I said, chat, where else are you going to get this? Where else are you getting this kind of content? Where else is there an attorney out there who may be talking to you about, things like this? Where else are you going to find that, chat? Where else are you going to find that? Where else are you going to find that, chat? I'm just telling you, it's not a place you're going to find it. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing out there. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. Shelly says, sorry, I thought this was an IT technically helpful. Oh. So, this is never a law channel. I know this is a, oh, let me see here. Over on Rumble chat, historically White says the breadboard. He's like, I have one for guitar pedals. You can use those for a lot of different purposes, my friend. Johan says you could be super cool and set up a optical beam breaker and SDR receiver with CT CSS to react to a tone. Yeah, I mean, like, you could do all that, but I bet you get drone striked at that point, so. Oh. Kat says, I know how to change light switches, electrical outlets, and rewire lamps. They just to my knowledge. You don't really... Guys, making, as Grantham says, making explosives is really easy. Making the detonating circuit to a bomb is actually really fucking easy. If a bunch of semi-illiterate mud farmers in Afghanistan can figure out how to do it, you can do it. It's not hard. It's just you have to be very careful because there's not a lot of room for error. Not a lot of room for error. So, let me see here. What is, yeah, you guys are all complicated, but sometimes there's something, be creative and be fancy and flashy. Uncle Ted is smiling down on us. Yes. Yes. Cal says this is a different kind of cooking stream. Yes. In chat, yes. We'll do a cooking stream of galvanized pipe components one day. As much as that'd be fun, we can't do that. I don't want to go to prison. But maybe one day we will. That would be so much fun. Hendrik says, sound like somebody's done something before. Just kidding. I mean, you know how many kids in America making bombs is throughout the prior to the Patriot Act being enacted was a very common thing. So yes. Oh no. Oh. All right, guys. So with that said, where are we at on here for this? Radcon Hazard says we got the January 6th bomber before GTA 6. Shake my head. I know. Nico says, how much for us to do a cooking collab with Kurt on this? That'd be a fun one. It's like, all right, guys, remember, keep your soldering iron nice and hot. Shredder S07 for the piping hot after show. Yes. And guys, the after show we do every Thursday night after the Thursday night show is at potentiallycriminal.locals.com. Use a promo code fall 2025 because it's still fall, even though we're in December now, for 1 month free access to get you all you need to know. We get to do all the fun stuff there. We can talk about a lot more things than we can get away with here. So join us over there. It is a fun time. You guys will not be disappointed. Also, it is a great time over there. Squizgar is saying, hate to be that guy, but wouldn't it be the January 5th pipe bomber? Yes, actually. And then Amateur Iconoclast says for $5, for das Ziel. Yes. Chugi Show is saying, are we going to get a 200th members 200th episode gift? No, you will not. I am Uncle Bob R, who's been a member for 12 months, says, the manlet that sachets like a DC female cop. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the guy. And then how would they know? Like, obviously, you don't have to include how they came across this guy in the warrant for his arrest. But something doesn't make sense on how they came across this guy. How do they know he was using cash? Like, there's just so much of this here that doesn't work. Unless they were tracking his cell phone and then they pulled up the footage and saw him using cash. I don't know. Not sure. And then Nico has been a member for 25 months. Thank you for the support, Nico. Says, getting my anniversary chat in before Sean gets booted. Well, thanks. Thank you very much, Nico. I appreciate the support. Stephen Cooper says, my class project is in the mail, Sean. Listen for the ticking. Yeah. Yes, everybody, that's the gift. Everybody mails me a pipe bomb. And then I have to learn how to defuse them. How do I open the box carefully on stream? It's like the Hurt Locker. Fair Frozen 55 says, not legal advice, but couldn't you also steal these items? Like some of these you could steal from people, like a klepto, like those timers he got. Like, yeah, you could steal some of this stuff. But then, you start getting caught with like theft charges and shit, and that adds up too. The Amateur Iconoclast brings up, so handcrafted wood like Uncle Ted? Yes. Then Nico says, how are they going to explain all these anvils Sean got from Mersh? If people are really sending him anvils, I'd be like, I'd take one. It's a free anvil. I mean, Johan saying where the bomb set the CP time. I mean, it sounds like it. They failed to go off. Although there's a really good meme out there, a meme picture of some soldiers in Iraq. I think they're EOD guys. They're holding up one of those cell phone bombs, and it says one missed call. And for some reason, the phone didn't work. Wasn't wired up right or something, or it just didn't work. Sometimes that happens too with phones. And it was wired up to some plastic explosive, but it didn't go off. That's kind of neat. And I'm sure at that point they had unwired it so it couldn't go off. So, rest in peace, Kerry Tagawa, consummate 80s, 90s Asian bad guy. Yes, apparently passed away. I saw you guys commenting on that. and we'll pull him up real quick. You guys don't know who we're talking about. This is him. Passed away. Gone too soon, chat. Gone too soon. So there you go. Rip, rip, rip. Johan saying, didn't even use the Wagos, chat. We used to be a proper country. For shame. Then Johan again for $5 says, go bless the goal, chat. Yes, always bless the goal. Yes, always, always bless the goal. And Katie, who's been a member for 21 months, says, Franklin and Clyde go searching for Sonny. Yes, there are a bunch of these things out there. These Franklin the Turtle memes are so fucking funny. Some of these are so damn good. It's these are so damn funny. These are so funny. If you guys have not seen these before, these are just great. Ag sent some of these to me. Ag Biochemist sent these my way. Yes, Franklin burns out on a rainbow crosswalk. Franklin reaches the top. Oh, poor Franklin. You're getting there, buddy. Then there's also Franklin meets a retard. And we're going to get to this because that is very funny. This is a very funny thing that's going on right now with the governor of Minnesota. How are people making these? I think they're just using just regular AI. I don't think they're using Sora for all these, but AI is pretty good about if you tell them the style of things you want. Yes, Franklin builds a pipe bomb. Yes, Franklin causes a mass casualty event. All right, so let's keep moving here, chat. Moving on. As you guys, we talked about last week, Letitia James and James Comey had their indictments dismissed because the appointment of Lindsay Halligan, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, violated the appointments clause according to the judge in charge that ruled upon those. So what happened from there? Well, in the meantime, even though the cases got dismissed, the DOJ has the opportunity to refile. Well, just recently, chat, the DOJ tried to indict Letitia James again, and guess what? The grand jury declined to indict. Now, we don't know what reasons they did because the grand jury can have whatever reasons it wants to. Whether or not they thought the elements of the crime weren't met, maybe they don't think it's a crime. Remember, being in a grand jury, you can set policy in a way in your governance, just like being on a petit jury and trial jury. You can help set governmental policy by saying this is something we want the government to pursue or not pursue. So, grand jury declined to re-indict Letitia James. You know, very much the same way I told you, even if James Comey got to trial, the idea that some glowies in Alexandria, Virginia were going to convict him and not stick it to Trump, I mean, I find very hard to believe. So regardless, I think there'll be jury nullification in effect, which, once again, jury nullification is a thing, and juries can vote the way they want to vote in that regard. They can acquit despite evidence. Now, a grand jury declined to indict her, and this is, 10 days after a judge threw out the initial charges. They point out that the DOJ could seek an indictment a third time. Now, that said, Letitia James is running her mouth, and she says, these charges are baseless, except they're not. Like, it sounds like you cheated on your fucking shit buying houses. It says, I'm grateful to the members of the grand jury. It says, I will continue to do my job standing up for the rule of law and the people of New York. Well, I don't know about that. But they point out that, she is a political target who is one of several enemies he had said on social media who should face legal jeopardy. Well, remember, Letitia James told everybody, I'm going to prosecute Donald Trump no matter what. Well, I don't feel bad for her. But anyways, yes, James had been charged with making false statements to financial institution and bank fraud. And yes, remember, Lindsay Halligan's appointment was deemed defective. It doesn't like, is the DOJ going to appeal it? We're not sure yet. Like, they haven't done anything with that. They tried to reindict anyway. So, yeah. Well, so we'll see. But yes, once again, they cry about the vindictive prosecution that the DOJ is a personal agent of Trump's revenge. It's like, yes, Letitia. You came after him. He's going to come after you, bitch. That's how this works. That's how that works. Nobody. I don't feel bad for you. So, that is an update there. So, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen again. So we'll see. Now this is the funny part here. Abe Lowell, one of Letitia James' attorneys, you're like, wow, I've heard that guy's name everywhere. Involved with Hunter Biden. Yeah, these guys are all, it's like, how does that all work? It's like, He says, this should be the end of the case. If they continue undeterred by a court ruling and a grand jury's rejection, how many times has that stopped the DOJ before? None. It will be a shocking assault on the rule of law. Why? If they're allowed to do it, it is the rule of law. And a devastating blow to the integrity of our justice system. Because it had so much integrity to start with. Yes. The hypocrisy is astounding. So we'll see what happens there. Just keep that in mind, chat. She got a little bit of a dub. So, yeah, let her enjoy her dub. Oh. You wouldn't think so. You'd think like, where's the justice in this world? But not yet for us. Now, in First Amendment news, some good stuff has been happening on the First Amendment front. And one of those is what's going on in the great state of Minnesota. You guys remember the great state of Minnesota is led by the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, Tampon Tim. You may have heard of him. Well, he has said people are driving by the governor, his house, which I will just, clarify for everybody. The governor's mansion, calling him retarded. And yes, this is actually happening apparently. And you're like, no, it's not, Sean. No, it's not. It's like, just shh. You let me show you what's happening, chat. You let me show you what's happening. You let me show you. We're gonna make sure this is up good and loud. Also, here we go.
True. This creates danger. And I'll tell you what, in my time on this, I'd never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word in front of people. This is shameful. And I have yet to see a Republican elected official say, you're right, that's shameful. He should not say it. So look, I'm worried. We know how these things go. They start with taunts, they turn to violence. So
yes, because calling someone a retard, the next logical step is getting shot in the fucking neck like Charlie Kirk. Wow, Governor Walz, that's really retarded. But yes, people are addressing their elected officials and taunting them and picking on them. Based. Oh no, someone got called a retard. Oh no.
Oh, deeply concerned. True.
So people are calling Tim Walz a retard. Now, it is a bit of an issue for Tim Walz because he does have a son who is, I think he's on the, I don't know if he's got Down syndrome or he's on the spectrum, or I think his kid's just on the spectrum, but he has a kid who's, got mental retardation. So yeah, I'm sure that really pisses him off a lot. He should be charged with a felony for trying to look like Don Rickles. That is actually, I mean, in this freeze frame kind of does. But yes, Trump said he was seriously retarded. And yes, when I heard that, I was like, let me see here. Yes, hush retard. It's like, well, you did go full retard. Yes, check. Can we build an R tower? An R tower. Bob is crying. He's like, it's Will Stancil. I know. Will Stancel's probably crying for him. Kayla says, are they yelling rape? I don't know if they're yelling rape, but they might be.
Rape.
But anyway, Sula says this is based. Yes, that's right, chat. Can we get 50 subs to make sure that Governor Walz is retarded? Oh, we tried to do... Okay, so we start building the retard tower. Of course, you guys, of course. Yes, a proper hard tower should be misspelled. Oh. Yes. So now the internet's going to call him that even more. He doesn't. That's the thing. You just got to leave it alone, chat. You got to leave it alone that way. PLT says 1 like equals 1 extra chromosome. Oh no, chat. But yes, that is something going on there, and it's just it goes to show you how good you may say like we have it really good here in America. We have it really fucking good in America. Think about if you try to do that in Britain. You'd probably get hauled in by the police. And for a guy in Britain, something happened to him, and it really... I thought this was a joke when I first heard about it till I saw the link and I clicked on it. But oh my God. Oh my God. This is a real thing here, guys. This is a real thing. I saw Count Dankula talking about it today, which is kind of neat that I'm on the cutting edge with Count Dankula. But a guy from Britain was thrown in a jail cell because he went on vacation to the United States and took a picture of her. He got his picture taken shooting a gun. You heard me right. You heard me right. So, John, I don't know how you consider yourself an Englishman when your name's Richelieu. Richelieu. That's a very French name. Booth is 50, claims he endured 13 weeks of hell after police banged on his front door over a LinkedIn photo showing him shooting a gun in Florida, where shooting firearms is legal. And this is him. The eyes a little loose. I do like the American flag touch, though. It'd be nice if he could come here. And yes, this is well, I mean that's kind of what you expect an Englishman to holding an AR-15 to do. I mean, he's like, He's trying, Chad. He's trying real hard, but he's getting there. He shows pictures of him at a gun store, and so yeah, he came to America. So he came to the Gunshine State in Florida, chat. He came to the Gunshine State because why not? Anyways, he went to shooting. He went shooting on somebody's private land. He was turning 50. He shot a hunting rifle, an AR-15, a shotgun, a Glock, and a Taurus Judge. It's like, oh my God, like the fact I bet he's like, oh wow, this Taurus Judge is probably a cool gun. It's like, you should go to prison for that thought, sir. That is the one thing I will support. These happened on August 13th while he was out of town, and he posted it on his LinkedIn, which that is such a boomer thing. I don't know why you would put stuff like that on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's kind of like, I don't know. I don't. Whatever. So the next day, police visit his home to warn him that concerns have been raised. And he says he immediately offered to say, "Hey, look, I took these pictures in the United States," but the cops said we don't need to see it. And then later, they returned to his home and arrested him on suspicion of possessing a firearm with an intent to cause fear or violence. The bail documents talk about him possessing a gun and a further allegation of stalking related to a photograph of a house that appeared on his social media. Now, he claims this is all because of a contractor who owes him around 30,000 pounds. You might be saying, well, that's a lot of money, 30,000 pounds of money. It's like, no, chat. If you're in Rio Linda, they don't weigh their money. He concedes the contractor's photo of the home was taken and uploaded on his LinkedIn page. Anyways, here's a picture of him shooting the shotgun. And I'm like, oh my God. Bro, we need to work on your shooting stance. But you're trying. So anyways, yeah, he's out here. It's like, he's drinking Dr. Pepper, chat. But he looks like he's having fun. Based Florida man, partially. He said he was held overnight in a cell. And then the cops kept showing up more times before he was rearrested. Everything got dropped. But he was charged with a public order offense relating to something from his social media. Because, chat, once again, you can't say the word faggot in, Britain. A woman got arrested because she called her ex-boyfriend a faggot. You also can't say the word nigger. You can't say a lot of words in Britain. I forget which debate that was, online debate, where the guy's like, just say the word nigger. Say the word nigger. And the guy's like, I can't do it. He's like, well, I can if I want to. He's like, but you can't. He's like, oh, we're free. Can't say any of those words. So, he said that he had not been told by the police which post was being investigated. He says the only post he made out that day was called on a delinquent contractor to do the right thing. Yeah, but that's part of if you're going to speak through the law. Don't speak through social media. So, but anyways, he had appeared to deal with the offense of displaying any representation to cause harassment, alarm, or distress. The charges got dropped by the Crown Prosecution Service, citing lack of evidence. And he says his arrest has left him unable to work since his phone and laptop were taken. So anyways, this guy got championed by Elon Musk. It says this is why we have the First and Second Amendments. It is true. It is why we have them. And this is, you know what? I as long as he's not going to vote for cutting, cut little boys' wieners off, I guess he can come over. We'll give him asylum. He now wants to resettle in Florida with his American partner. He says, we've become really thin-skinned in Britain, and it's downright Orwellian. It'd be nice if he did. And yeah, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister. Oi, Mr. Prime Minister! Says we've had free speech in the UK for a long time, but clearly we don't, if my experience is anything to go by. And that's 100% true. It's 100% true. They don't have free speech in Britain. Like I said, I could be in trouble for what I said there. He's told his lawyers with a view of taking legal action against the West Yorkshire police. I don't know how it's going to work because I bet here we have sovereign immunity, and that comes from the idea you can't sue the king. Well, in England, literally, there's probably no way to sue them. No way to sue them, probably. He says, I may indeed going through legal action. I doubt it. He says the police are not fit for the purpose, and every single one of them that was involved needs to be suspended, investigated, fired, and prosecuted. Well, no, what needs to happen is one of their, Asian immigrants needs to go, just like for Ofcom, drive a little Ryder truck full of something that goes surprise, and park it in front of their police department and just... Because these people are authoritarian scumbags, real Nazis, real fascists. People run around screaming about fascism. This is fascism. You know. He says the officer in charge of this case came to my house on August 14th, put his thumbs in his jacket to make himself look bigger, which means he had his that thing where cops do, they put their thumbs underneath their bulletproof vest. And and then try to tell me I should be aware of how I'm making people feel. Once again, England is a country that is cocked. Cocked, I tell you. You know, and he says I was shunned by my neighbors and people avoided me. And yeah, I mean, like, well, welcome to America, man. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I doubt it's really going to get anywhere. Winter Soldier says, Sean, click on Jane Seymour's nudes. I'm good. I don't even know where you saw that. Hold on. Where the hell is that? Oh, Jane Seymour's 74? Damn. Wow. I didn't realize Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman's that old. Oh, yes. There was also Piers Morgan and Tucker Carlson did that recently, but there was some way before that. There was one way before that I was thinking of. He says, we don't want criminals with records like that immigrating here, Sean. Well, we'll see. Mr. Pyro 96 has been a member for 12 months. Thank you for being here, man. It says, and now they want to remove jury trials. Well, we're going to get to this. No right of appeal. Stories like this will be open and shut. Well, that's going to be the next thing we're getting to here. Because, yes, in Britain, they're doing something, you know, great democracy vibes here, chat. Real democracy vibes. Jury trials are going to be scrapped in England and Wales if the possible sentence is less than 3 years in prison. Let that sink in, chat. If you face less than 3 years, in prison, you don't get a trial. And this is David. This is David Lammy. He is one of the lead retards in the Labor Party. This is like Sargon likes talking about this guy. So, what was that beep? I have the bleep button. I accidentally hit the wrong thing here, but I can go like this. I could do that. And just go. So I could do that. But anyways, this is jury trials in England and Wales for crimes that carry a likely sentence of less than 3 years will be scrapped. They're going to get rid of them, chat. You know, I love democracy. This is real democracy here. So why are they doing this? The reforms to the justice system include creating swift courts under the government's plan to tackle unprecedented delays on the court system. Serious offenses, including murder, robbery, and rape, will still go before a jury, and volunteer community magistrates, who deal with the majority of all criminal cases, will take on even more work. So the idea to make things swift, we're going to make the courts do more. Make that make sense. He says, David Lammy, once again, which is this pudwhacker, says the reforms were bold but necessary. But the conservatives describe the plans as the beginning of the end of jury trials. Well, it is. And here's the thing. In Britain, having a jury trial anyway is very, very uncommon. It's not an easy thing to get. It's very hard to have. Most people don't have them. So it's really hard to have a jury trial in Britain. But yes, it is the end of them. If we're eliminating them, yes. If we're eliminating jury trials, it's the end of jury trials. Like, that is 100% what's happening here. 100% what's happening. So, it's so sad. It's so sad to see it. So, anyways, they talk about there were different judge was asked to come up with some proposals. These proposals included jury-free trials and more out-of-court settlements like cautions. And in July, the judge here, this guy, Judge Brian Levison, said that fundamental reforms were needed to reduce the risk of total system collapse. Oh, well, I mean, I mean, it sounds like it's going to collapse anyway. It sounds like it's going to collapse anyway. I think it's going to collapse anyway. There was a previous thing about ending jury trials for crimes up to 5 years in sentences. But as he announced the reforms in the House of Commons, David Lammy retreated from the most radical ones. He says the new system would get cases dealt with a fifth faster than jury trials. He said it was necessary because the Crown Court, which is the one who deals with the serious stuff, has caseloads reaching 100,000 by 2028 from the current backlog of almost 78,000. That means a suspect charged with an offense today may not reach trial until 2030. Maybe you don't need to charge as many people. This is a philosophical thing here. Maybe we don't need to do the thing we're doing. Maybe that's the answer to this. 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 Maybe that's the answer here. Maybe we don't need to do this. That's just me, chat. I'm the type of guy they would probably try to arrest anyway. So, I'm probably the guy they would try to arrest anyway on this stuff. But listen to this crap here. Listen to this crap here. A defendant's right to a jury trial would also be restricted to prevent them from gaming the system. Gaming the system. Gaming the system. Think our legal system is built upon what they created for us in Britain hundreds and almost 1,000 years ago at this point now. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years from these people who have come to help us. Just think about that, guys. Think about that. It's just, juries were something put together in the Magna Carta, having juries. Like, the cornerstone of common law. The cornerstone of common law. This is just ridiculous. 6 out of 10 victims of rape, probably at the hands of muscle grooming gangs, are said to be withdrawing from prosecutions. It says the reforms will remove the right for defendants to ask for a jury trial, where a case could be dealt with either by magistrates or a new form of judge-only court. It's interesting how they get to do that. It's interesting. Oh, we're deciding you don't need that. People facing fraud and complex financial crimes will no longer get a jury trial. A recommendation made by the government this year. That's great. Once again, they're doing this for you, aren't they? Jury trials will be guaranteed for the most serious offenses until the government decides they don't want to. If there's another recommendation made to the government. Remember, this is going to be, asterisk. Asterisk, that's not guaranteed as long as they don't want to be guaranteed. Until they change their mind. Until they change their mind, chat. For rape, murder, burglary, blackmail, people trafficking, grievous bodily harm, and the most serious drug offenses. There are around 1.3 million prosecutions in England and Wales. 10% of those cases go before a Crown Court. Of those, 3 out of 10 result in trials. Well, that's a fucking you problem. That's a fucking you problem. Oh. You know, the reforms appear to mean that more than 2 out of 10 will still go before a jury. Juries are not a bad thing. It should be 10 out of 10. List of restrictions, the critics say. The critics to this, including almost all of the barristers, say it won't have any impact because the real problem have been cuts by the Ministry of Justice. The evidence also shows ethnic minorities believe they get a fairer hearing with juries than with magistrates alone. Yeah, I bet. And Lammy has been, previously cutting juries would be a mistake, but told the BBC ahead of the announcement, facts had changed. No, meaning he's now in power. And the Shadow Justice Secretary, guys, David Lammy is the current the Ministry of Justice, Minister of Justice. The shadow government is the conservative side. So the side out of power has a corresponding thing. So it'd be very much like here in America. There would be the Democrats would have a corresponding person who is designated their Secretary of State person. And their job is solely to go around and A-log the shit out of Marco Rubio. They would have somebody who's going to be like every position in the cabinet. There'd be a person going out to A-log Pete Hegseth all the time. I would have done it differently. Here's how I would have done it. So that's who this guy is. But yes, they're scrapping the institutions they once lauded. So, but anyways, this gives the magistrates power to hear cases that have a maximum sentencing range of up to 18 months. A backup power to allow them to sentence a criminal up to 2 years will be created, but held in reserve. Which, no, that means they're going to use it. If you're giving them a power, they'll do it. And it says, currently, a magistrate can impose a sentence up to 12 months or a fine of an unlimited amount. Which, that's insane. An unlimited amount? Yeah. Yes, David Lammy wants Sharia for his cousins. Of course, he probably does. So, the Liberal Democrats, that's another party in Britain. It's not one of the big ones. Says jury trials were a fundamental right. They are. They called for a strategy that increased court sitting days. That would help. Make better use of underused courtrooms. Fix broken private contracts that leave defendants stuck in prison vans. And invest in rehabilitation. Yeah, sounds like a great idea. Judge-only trials risk deepening existing inequalities. It does. People should have the right to be tried in their community. And it says the Criminal Bar Association, which represents specialist criminal barristers in England, said, the changes are a wrecking ball to a system that is fundamentally sound and has been in place for generations. Not generations, but centuries. Juries work. I agree. Even when juries don't give me the verdict I want, they generally do their job superbly and without bias. I don't ever want to lose juries. And it says juries are not the reason for the backlog. So, fucking buckle up, Britain. Buckle up. Just think about that. And think about that on top of a country like this, where this guy just took pictures of himself shooting guns 3,000 miles away, and they're still giving him problems. Oh. Just, I don't know what you could say more. Yeah, 800 years. Yes, and Gene is correct. No free man shall be taken, imprisoned, deceased, outlawed, banished, or in any other way. Deceased means your land taken from you, because that was what, back at the Magna Carta, that was the lords going to King John. You couldn't, the right of season was how you got land. So you couldn't be deceased. Banished or in any other way destroyed. nor will he proceed against or prosecute him except by lawful judgment of his peers. And that's a 1215 chat. Over 800 years ago. 810 years ago, that's been around. Not anymore. Not anymore. 810 years. Just taking a match. All gone. All gone. Everett Scott says they ain't free anymore. They ain't been free for a long time, man. They ain't been free for a long time. So, they ain't been free for a long time. Not at all. BobTube for $2 says, why are they picking on that short white king? I think he's talking about the guy initially, Brian Cole. Yeah, I don't know. They're picking on the short kings, man. Real quick, Mikey for $10. Thank you, Mikey. Is saying, can the DOJ just run all their indictments through a FISA court and not have to worry about judge, juries, and the like? I mean, it's not like that hasn't been done before. No, they can't, because these judges will not go along with that, because they only like doing that when they're attacking people on the right. So no. But I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Also, happy Thursday. Yeah, thank you. Happy Thursday to you too. It's almost Friday. Almost Friday. KMW's been a member for 16 months. Thank you for being here. He says, what's the definition of causing fear? I don't know. Probably nothing. I felt uncomfortable. You made them spill their Grey Poupon. Their tea spilled. Florence says they are a weak people. It's very sad. Oh, it is. It's true. They are a cucked people. And then it's Airstrip 1 now, Sean, says J-Rock. Yes. Yes, very true. And C3 Metal is saying for 17 months. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Says try and get a hold of Black Belt Barrister. Yes. I hadn't thought about that, but yes, getting a hold of Shad and see if he could comment on this or talk about it. I'd love to have him on. And maybe he could comment about the guy with the guns thing too. I don't know if he can or not, but yeah, I need to shoot him an email. I'll shoot him a DM. I don't know if he's still... I don't know. I'll try to reach out to him. See if he can comment on this. I don't know. Remember, he might be limited what he can say. The rules for, barristers and whatnot are different than they are here. But yeah, I'll see if he can talk about it, because I'm very curious to see what he has to say. And he can explain us a little bit how the jury process works over there. I don't know if he's got anything like that, but I'll talk to him. Good idea. Thank you. Mikey has been a member for 17 months. Thank you for being here, Mikey. Says, can they really have a jury of their peers if they have no more peers that make up juries? Well, I mean, just because your peers now say, "Sir," doesn't mean they're not your peers. Doesn't mean they're not your peers. Iman Rezu is saying Britain is felted segment. Yes. JDev says obvious tyranny is obvious. Yes, very true. Very true. Harbor Warble says they have volunteer magistrates. Yes, they have volunteer Jannies. Yes, you have no rights. You only have a list of temporary privileges. Well, yeah, if you can't back it up, then they're only temporary. For as long as you're willing to hold on to them. And then EDW Raptor for 27 months. Thank you for being here. He says, they should make novelty Magna Carta toilet paper at this point. Pretty much. Yeah, the foundations of common law, just fuck it. Who cares? Fuck it. Who cares? Who cares, chat? Who cares? All right, guys. We are getting to the end of the night here. Hold on, we gotta chain this up a bit. Okay. Real quick, guys, this is kind of just a wrap up to something we have been talking about and following for a while now. Matthew Perry, you guys remember him. Chandler Bing from Friends, his big name to fame. Died of a ketamine overdose a couple years ago. the doctor who was actually in charge of giving him the ketamine. Because remember, we learned about his personal assistant was out there scoring ketamine left, right, and center. And Matthew Perry was using tons of it by the time he died. He was buying ketamine from the ketamine queen. Well, the doctor in charged in the death of this was sentenced to 30 months of prison. So the judge involved in this was placed at 30 months of prison for supplying ketamine to Matthew Perry and his assistants. He was also fined $5,600, which, you know, of all the things, I'm sure that's not the biggest problem. He immediately was taken into federal custody. But anyways, he was 4 counts of illegally distributing ketamine to Matthew Perry. He lost his medical license, which that is a bigger deal. So, and remember, guys, Matthew Perry was found in his jacuzzi. He drowned in 2023, almost over 2 years ago now. So yeah, anyways, the doctor admitted that about a month before his death, he gave Matthew Perry 20 vials of ketamine, which totaled 100 milligrams, along with ketamine lozenges and syringes. He also got another doctor to help him get other drugs and just went through all of it. After selling the drugs for $4,500, they just were going to keep supplying him, and they kept going and kept going and kept going. And yeah, so that is kind of the end of the Matthew Perry. That's the end of the Matthew Perry saga. But I thought it was kind of interesting to see that finally has wrapped up here. So, Fedorowski says he died from ketamine. That's hard to do. Well, he died from a bunch of stuff, but part of it was he had ketamine. Then he fell face down in the pool and drowned. From what I think that's how it went. So yeah, I mean that's what killed him was the drowning, not the ketamine. So that's so. All right, guys. Now, speaking of another Matthew, we're going to just move right into the next segment here. The next Matthew, this guy, Matthew Hoover, guy from CRS Firearms. You may remember him as the guy in the auto key card situation. If you guys remember, that's this thing here. Perfect timing, guy, ivermectin. Remember, this is a lightning link. Now, it's not to scale because if you cut it out and follow it exactly to spec, it doesn't work. Regardless, Matt Hoover was charged with and convicted of being involved in the machine gun gang and sent to prison. Well, Matt Hoover got released from prison. He is now in a halfway house. So I did check with Floodbusters. That is 100% true. And yeah, so that's some good news out there. I know that's better than the alternative. So it's some good news. But yes, basically a political prisoner has been freed. Matt Hoover is a political prisoner at this point. So yeah, he is out. That's some good news. But still a long road for this guy trying to fight for his freedom and everything else that's out there. It's not good enough. Oh, I agree. He should never be found guilty. I agree too. This, it wasn't a crime. If that's a crime, I mean, that's no different than if we're going to talk about stuff, I mean, really. This is more of a crime than that because this is actually correct. These are actually correct drawing and spec requirements. This is far more correct than that. This should be a crime. Because I'm not saying you can't screenshot this and make a lightning link. You can. So that's why if what he did is a crime, this is definitely a crime. So is this. I don't know what these numbers mean, chat. This one's a drawing of a deck anyway with a hot tub in it. So you do what you want with that. You do what you want. But anyways, welcome home, Matt. I'm glad he's back. I'm sure his family's thrilled he is home as well. I'm sure his family's thrilled that he is home as well. Now, we are now getting to what's been going on in Venezuela and down at what's been going on in the Caribbean. Now, before we get too far, here's people are worried about, are these war crimes? Are these not war crimes? I think the bigger question people need to discuss is what legal authorization is out there. Now, we don't know. It's not clear. And that's a bigger question because that hasn't been stated. Now, I will say the idea that the U.S. government and presidents have acted in an extrajudicial way towards fighting the war on drugs, since Reagan, that's happened. But I will say, and I said it before, with President Trump, and this goes back to them doing the designation of the cartels as an FTO, foreign terrorist organization. I don't like this. I have a lot of concerns because remember, back at the beginning of 2025, beginning of the year, what did we get? Well, there's some stuff here that we're going to get to, but here are the big ones that happened. What did we see? Who got put on the list? Tren de Aragua, MS-13, the United Cartel, the Gulf Cartel, the North Cartel, CJNG, the Sinaloa Cartel. A lot of organizations got added. Okay? And the big one, remember, Trendy Arugula, the Venezuelan boys. But a bunch of other people got added. And then you see some other groups here, and then you get a little higher, Then some funny stuff got added, like Revolutionary Class Self-Defense, Armed Proletarian Justice, the Informal Anarchist Federation, Antifa Ost, a.k.a. Hammerbond. You're like, suffer, commies, suffer. But anyways, getting back to the ones that matter, the drug cartels. Like, this is not a good idea. This is not a good idea, chat. I don't like it. I don't like this idea because now this becomes nonsense in the drug war. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was an ad for doing drugs, like an anti-drug ad. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is from I was in college or high school when this came out. But it was a video, there's an ad about if you're doing drugs, you're supporting terrorism. And this is where it kind of goes. I don't know if you guys...
It's a ploy.
Well,
is this it? Yeah.
This drug money funds terror. It's a ploy.
Ploy.
A manipulation.
Ploy.
Drug money funds terror. I mean, why should I believe that?
Because it's a fact.
A fact.
FACT fact.
So you're saying that I should believe it because it's true. That's your argument.
It is true.
And that was one of them. And then there's another one where you're like, wait, that's what they did? Yeah, this is how they did this shit. That's how they did this stuff. And I'm trying to find the other one, but it shows, these were different things that they were doing to try to discourage drug use, that if you buy drugs, you're supporting terrorism. And this is like another one they were trying to do. I don't remember it. I can't find it now, chat. But it's basically how it went. Some kid buys drugs from his drug dealer and gives him like a $20 bill. And you kept seeing the $20 bill changing hands. And then finally that $20 bill ended up in the hands of some guy like in Afghanistan. And the idea was, when you bought that weed, you're supporting Al-Qaeda. So, yeah, or like FARC. Yes, but it was at the time you were supporting Al-Qaeda. And that was a way they were trying to go after the drug, fight drugs. That was one I remember watching, and I'm like, This is so fucking cringe. Well, but now they're kind of doing that. And we now need to know, okay, well, so they're terrorist organizations. So how can you do things with them? Well, one of the easy things is you go to the Authorization on the Use of Military Force, the AUMF, the most famous one. And why do we have an AUMF? It's because Congress, if they can wash their hands of it, they don't get held responsible. So there's no war. There's nothing they do. So instead, they gave the president, hey, you go do stuff, and we'll talk about it later. So the Authorization of Use of Military Force. And some people have emailed me and asked me, like, what is the AU? And it's known as the AUMF. And they said, does this authorize Trump to go fight the cartels? Well, here's the problem. No. The president is authorized to use all necessary and appropriate force against those nations, organizations, or persons. He determines, planned, authorized, committed, or aided the terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11th, or harbored such organizations or persons in order to prevent any future acts of international terrorism against the United States by such nations, organizations, or persons. So notice the AUMF could still be used today. That's why we could still go kill ISIS people, saying the AUMF. So they say this is all consistent with the War Powers Resolution. And it says nothing in this resolution supersedes any requirement of the War Powers Act, the War Powers Resolutions. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work here now. But as... are they going to try to like weave in some like shit out of like Call of Duty, Black Ops or Sicario where, like the Iranian Revolutionary Guard or Al Qaeda or ISIS are working with Tren de Aragua or some of these drug trafficking organizations? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what information they have, how they're doing it. But also remember, in the meantime, like attacking the Houthis, they kind of shoehorned that in on the AUMF. And that really wasn't proper either. And instead, we started a bombing campaign like that. Yes, and in the meantime, Mohammed al-Jawlani, one of the former heads of Al-Qaeda and al-Nusra and ISIS, got to hang out with Trump in the fucking White House. So, yeah, it really doesn't make any sense now. Doesn't make any sense at this point. So what are we dealing with, though? Well, you're dealing with these things here. These are kind of like they're go-fast boats. They got a couple of outboards strapped to them. And they are going around hauling drugs around. Now, where are they doing this? Where is this all occurring? Well, this is all occurring down in the Caribbean, and it's not just a little bit of stuff here. So here is the Caribbean, guys. The Caribbean Sea. Here is Venezuela. And real quick, before we get too far, here's Venezuela. Here's Aruba. Here is Trinidad and Tobago. That's going to be important in a second. But we're also going to notice here, down here. Down here is Brazil. Okay? Over here is Guyana. This area, and to be fair, really, like, this whole fucking region is full of oil and other critical natural resources. Critical natural resources. There's tons of it there. Tons of it. Now, what's the problem here? Well, along the Venezuelan and Guyanese border, there's a massive border dispute that's been going on for decades. And it's only kicking off more and more and getting more powered. So this isn't just about drugs at this point, chat. This is about the Monroe Doctrine. And more importantly, just as there was the Great Game in Central Asia in the 1800s with Britain and Russia, we're now seeing the Great Game here. This is the battlefield of the next couple of decades. With China on one side and the USA on the other. This is kind of where the great game's boiling down to right now. And yes, we have the Monroe Doctrine here, but you have to back it up. And the Monroe Doctrine is, this is our playground. This is for the United States. Don't come fucking around in here. It was established by President James Monroe. All right. So that's all been settled. Like, there's a lot that's going on here. But let's talk about what's going on here. So drugs are coming through Venezuela. Venezuela is a very good point because if I'm in Colombia, I could go to Medellin, and yeah, I could ship drugs up this way. It's tough, though, because in Panama, you have what's called the Darien Gap. Okay? And if you notice here, there are roads, and you see the Darien National Park. This is the area known as the Darien Gap, basically. This is some of the most inhospitable terrain in the world. It's almost impossible to traverse. This is dense, horrid jungle. And it's a big problem. Like, there's no major routes or roads. And then from there, you have to go all the way through Central America, get all the way through Mexico, which means you have to deal with the cartels, and then into America. Well, there's another way that's a little easier. Now, here's the problem. If I'm in Colombia, I can't just go from, like, Cartagena up through here. Why? Well, because the Coast Guard or the Navy can intercept you. Okay, so what's the other option? You go to Venezuela. You come down here. Obviously, you don't go to Aruba, and you don't go to Curacao. Those are your two. Here's Aruba, here's Curacao. You don't go there. You come all the way over to the end of Venezuela, and you come out this way. And right away, you can get into Trinidad. Right away, you're right there. This is Venezuela, guys. Right here. That's Venezuela, all right there. More importantly, even if I'm in Venezuela, look where I can go. I can get up to Grenada. I can get up to Barbados. I can get up to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I can get all the way up to St. Lucia. And look what I could do. Look where that all goes, chat. It's like it's an archipelago. You go all the way up through the chain, the British Virgin Islands, into Puerto Rico. The home of Luis Fonsi and Despacito. And you come up and then look from here. Once you get into Puerto Rico, and now look where you are. It's like you follow the island chains, and look, before you know it, you're in the United States. You can also go from Venezuela to Europe. So it is a major drug trafficking area. It's a major drug trafficking area. Yeah, and for Puerto Rico, you get an easy flight onto the mainland. Yep. Once you're into America, it's easy to travel in America. Michael Yan has done a bunch of the coverage on the Darien Gap and the trafficking through it. Yeah, there's a lot of trafficking, but if there were a bunch of roads in the Darien Gap, there'd be a ton of trafficking through it. But it's heavily restricted because of the access to infrastructure. So that's why they're going using boats and these other opportunities. Let's see here. Let me see. I'm just checking to be here. So from here, oh, you're disappointed I didn't sing a verse of Panama. Do. So from here, guys, the administration has deployed a lot of military forces to the Caribbean, not only because of the drugs, but also because of Venezuela. Venezuela is a government hostile to the United States at this point. And there are a ton of military forces in the Caribbean. And I had this up earlier and I accidentally closed it out when I was looking around. But there is a massive, there's charts and charts and charts of all the stuff that is being used at this point to establish And remember, the U.S. isn't that far away in terms of, airplanes being able to get to, getting to Venezuela. I mean, think about it. You could fly from Puerto Rico. But there's now a carrier battle group. The Gerald Ford is now in the Caribbean. Like there's a lot of stuff going on out there, you guys. I don't think you understand. There is a ton of military forces in the Caribbean currently. And I wish I didn't accidentally delete the damn graphic, but there's so much that is being stacked up out there in the Caribbean, and it's not trivial. It's not trivial. There are a lot of overflights. There are amphibious assault ships with the Marines. There are Marines stationed in, on those boats. There are, squadrons of F-35s and other planes that are now building up and being stationed in Puerto Rico. Yeah, you have, Guantanamo Bay down here at the bottom end of Cuba. But you've got Puerto Rico here. There's been flights all along. You could fly from the B-52s, could fly all the way down, and they fly along the coast. We've been doing that for a while now. And there are tons and tons and tons. Basically, the Caribbean's been locked down. So to deal with these boats, some shit's been going on. And by that, I mean these boats are being attacked with weapons and being destroyed. And one of the things that happened recently was that a story came out that during the beginning operations of this in September, one of these boats, and I think it was actually, this is the boat specifically, this boat was going along and it got attacked and blowed up. And in fact, there is here is a GIF of what's happening basically. Those guys are going along and skadoosh, they're getting lit up. Now, it's not clear what happened from this, but at some point, the story came out that there were survivors in the water and that the military or Hegseth himself had said, hit them again, and killed them. Now that it's come out, and this is actually a very...
She now classifies...
This is actually a good thing here. So the Admiral Frank M. Bradley, this is a good explanation of some things here.
Tonight, the man who made the call for a second strike on this alleged drug boat in the hot seat, Admiral Mitch Bradley, briefing Congress about the decision to target 2 survivors from the initial attack, a decision criticized by Democrats and some Republicans. Bradley viewed the survivors as legitimate military targets. They were in the vessel and in electronic communication with another suspected drug boat.
Now, that's critical. And the bigger thing here you guys need to understand is all this is governed by the laws of armed conflict, the LOAC, which are basically like the Geneva Conventions and international law that we rely upon today. Okay? And there were a lot of issues about, well, if you strike somebody, well, is this a war crime or what was going on? And, we talked about this. The bigger question is there the AUMF or what do you do? Well, we have to put that one off to the side for right now because we're past that point of he did it. Okay, so they're doing it. Is this a war crime or is it not? And the first thing you guys need to understand, and this is where you guys could go to the Office of General Counsel for the War Department, and they have a very big set of official documents relating to the law of war. There's all kinds of stuff. There's memorandums here. There are different things about detainees, autonomous weapons, different things that are out there. Public remarks on this stuff by different people who've been general counsel for the DOD, U.S. documents regarding civilian casualties, all this stuff that's out there. And then you guys could read up on all this stuff if you want to. And then a thing that if you really want to get interested in, and you really want to take a look at this, and this is a massive fucking document, is the Department of Defense Law of War Manual. There is a JAG guy I spoke to. He told me they have a very much updated one. He's like, I don't know if I could just give that out, because he's like, if you can't find it online at the DoD, he says I would just stick with this for telling you what you need to know. But this is for this is the 2023 version. And this goes through everything. General background, principles, application law, work, class of persons, conducting hostilities, weapons. And then important stuff here. Wounded, sick, shipwrecked, dead, and medical services. Okay. How does this all work? It covers everything you would need to know to give you an idea of how to operate as a commander on the battlefield. Okay, well, we need to go down to some stuff here. So here we go. Here's some stuff. First of all, you need to get down to the concept of hors de combat. HORS de combat. DECOMBAT. Okay. And why does all this matter here? Well, because you need to find out who is active in a battle and who is not. Because certain people are fair game, but certain people are not fair game. Okay? And the basic part of where you start is, you can, obviously get to taking part in hostilities and standards. The best place to start, though, here is Section 5.9. And 5.9 covers how this starts. Persons placed hors de combat. You're like, okay, well, what does that actually mean? Okay, we're going to get this. So here's the idea. Here's where it starts. Well, are you allowed to attack these guys floating on a boat in the wreckage? Now, here's the deal. Are they surrendered? Do they have weapons? Are they cooperating? Are they still resisting? We don't, that's not been made clear at the time. So, but we found out today, yeah, it sounds like there was some stuff going on. But anyways, being placed hors de combat, you may not be made the object of attack. So how does this work? If you have to be abstaining from a hostile act and you can't attempt escape, are you in the power of an adverse party? Are you persons not yet in custody who have surrendered? Have you been made unconscious or otherwise incapacitated by wounds, sickness, or shipwreck? Have you parachuted from an aircraft in distress? Well, yeah, all that's covered. What does hors de combat mean? It's a French phrase that means out of the battle. So it's people who are not in the fight because they're out of fighting and they must be treated humanely. And it's used in Article 3 of Geneva Conventions. It's an actual legal term there. So we're not really worried about people who are an adverse party, but here's one, though. People who have surrendered. Okay, so people who are not in custody but have surrendered may not be made the object of an attack, but if to be surrendered, you must be genuine, clear and unconditional, and it has to be feasible for you to accept the surrender. Obviously, it has to be genuine. In addition to being legally ineffective, feigning the intent to surrender can constitute perfidy. And perfidy means being deceitful under war, like using an ambulance. And if you fake a surrender, you can be killed for that. Clear and unconditional. Yeah, it's got to be clear. Any arms should be laid down. Hostile acts or resistance, including efforts to escape or destroy items. Notice, not just escaping, but destroying your items, destroying equipment, documents, or equipment to prevent their capture by the enemy, would need to cease immediately for the offer to be clear and unconditional. So there you go, guys. So it's like, if you're giving up, you've given up. But if you're still trying to prevent the enemy from getting advantage, you're in the fight. Now, they point out waving a white flag is technically not a sign of surrender, but a desire to negotiate. In 324, they have a head note for this. And it says the white flag of truce to initiate negotiations. So, but here's the important stuff. The surrender must be at the discretion, meaning unconditional. If you're surrendering only if demands are met, you're not horde to combat. And then you have to be feasible to accept it. So, for example, a city can't be declared undefended if it's not open for immediate occupation. And then, is it practical and safe for the opposing ports to take custody? That says, for example, enemy soldiers who maintain an anti-aircraft gun and are shooting at an airplane. And then they raise their hands at the last second saying, I give up, as the airplane's attacking. Too late. And even if they did, the airplane can't take your surrender. It's like we're seeing in Ukraine. The drone can't take your surrender. Also, similarly, a soldier 50 meters from an enemy machine gun nest in the midst of an infantry assault couldn't throw down his weapons and raise his arms and reasonably expect the defending unit will be able to accept and accomplish his surrender while fighting off his friends. And we've seen that too in Ukraine. Russian or Ukrainian guy hops in the trench and they're clearing it. And all of a sudden somebody jumps out and says, don't shoot. Sorry, buddy, in the middle of the attack, when the fight's on, the fight's on. Can't take your surrender. Like, I got to clear this trench out. Bop, 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 bop. Like, it happens. In the midst of an attack, you're not able to surrender like that. Now, they can accept it. They don't have to. But this is important. Although the feasibility of accepting surrender includes consideration of whether it's feasible to take custody, this does not include the consideration of whether it's feasible to care for the detainees after taking custody. Meaning, we don't have people who can guard you, so no prisoners. Sorry, there's no follow-on force behind us. Boop, 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 boop. Nope, that can't be the consideration. But now we get to, are you unconscious or incapacitated by wound, sickness, or shipwreck? Okay, well, also remember, if you're unconscious, that doesn't mean you fell asleep. Sleeping, sorry, you get attacked. But shipwrecked combatants include those who have been shipwrecked from any cause. But they point out here that there is another thing here referring to the shipwrecked. And we're going to get to that here. Okay? Anyways, if you're all of this, and it would be dishonorable and inhumane to make them an objective of attack. In order to receive protection as a person who's horde to combat, you must be wholly disabled from fighting. On the other hand, you could be wounded and sick and still continue to fight. Anyways, if possible, those seeking protection as all of these should make it clear that they don't wish to fight anymore. And that's not guaranteed. It's not happened. It's not a common thing there. As it goes on, though, guys, there's more discussions of what do you do for shipwreck people? How does this all work? And notice these are just footnote after footnote after footnote after footnote after footnote after footnote after footnote. There's all kinds of stuff here. You can't, obviously, if you weren't aware of this, you can't booby trap the wounded. That's not how that works. There's some stuff here about the how you do things about rescuing people, reprising them, being shipwrecked. So, for example, what's the definition of shipwrecked? For the purpose of shipwrecked, it means from any clause, including forced landings. Shipwrecked may be those in distress at sea or stranded on the coast who are helpless. To be shipwrecked, you must be in need of assistance and care and refrain from any hostile act. Shipwreck does not include people who are engaged in operations that are proceeding ashore. So there you go. If you're doing a hostile act, you're still fair game. So what did they say? Cat's name is Karen says, why wasn't this discussed before? At the top levels of the DOD, they did discuss it. It's just that, on the left, this was their attempt to own Trump that he's committing a war crime. That's what they're doing there. So what happened? Ultimately, as the DOD explained today, these guys were on the boat or the wreckage of the boat, and they were in communication with their buddies saying, hey, come help us. We want to keep, we got all the drugs. We're going to keep doing it. Presumably they were still armed too. I don't know, but I think it's a fair enough reason. But they're still in the fight. They're still doing the hostile activity of trafficking drugs. Now, once again, we've skipped over the issue of, is there a legal basis to kill them, legal basis to do all this? We're now just to the issue of, once you've attacked them, can you attack them again? Yes. Remember, this is the equivalent of destroying, code books and equipment and scuttling your boat. It's an enemy freighter, and you just torpedoed it, and they're keeping all the supplies together, and they radioed for help, and they're going to load all that crap on another boat and take it where they're going. They're still in the fight. They're still trying to conduct a hostile act. So that's where we are with that. So, yes, there was no war crime committed. Now, is this a legal use of force? I don't know. I don't know what authorization these guys have for this. I don't know what authorization the Trump administration has determined it can do to do this. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I don't know what they've done. I don't have access to the intelligence. So anybody who tells you anything right now has no idea. Now, would I agree, though? Yeah, this seems a bit sketch. Sure. But I don't have all the stuff in front of me, so I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah, would Jeff have loved this topic? Sure, he would have. And guys, the DoD law manual, it goes into what you do with all this stuff. And a lot of this is just securing ships and being involved in those. Well, there's all kinds of stuff that we don't really need to worry about here. But it's very important. It's very important how this works. It covers all the different things that happen. And it's only going to get more and more in depth from here. Kia Patrick says, yeah, talk to anyone at the start of the Iraq War. The dead would stand up and start shooting. They started doing security rounds. Well, that's what happens. Faking dead is perfidy. You're faking dead. You're faking wounded. Well, yes, at that point, you are allowed to be very, very selective in how you accept things. And you're allowed at that point, you're legally allowed to shoot a dead body to make sure it's dead. Yes, you do a security round to make sure they're not getting up. So, but that's where we are right now. So it's not a war crime. It's not a war crime. It's not a war crime. Yes, pretending to be dead is a ruse de guerre. Yes. Yes. So that is kind of where we are with that, guys. So like I said, people who are complaining about it and all of that, just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. EDW Raptor says, wait, I thought Matthew Perry was the U.S. Navy captain who forcibly opened Japan to the west. Well, yes, Commodore Perry, yes. Derna is saying, were they wearing uniforms? Was their ship marked? Protocol 3 is a suggestion for the United States. Well, yeah, but I think at some point you are governed by it. And no, they're not wearing uniforms and their ships are not marked. But then again, remember, Derna, the bigger issue is, what legal authority do we have to be down there anyway, killing them in the first place? I don't see one yet. Now, there presumably is one, but I don't know what that is. And the amateur iconoclast has been here for 23 months. Says, but these same people would cheer on the Ukrainians' FPV droning Russian wounded. Yeah, but remember also at that point, too, it's like just because you're wounded doesn't mean you're out. And yeah, there's times where, hey, the drone can't take your surrender. But yes, overall, yes, the way that's being done is pretty ghoulish. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. Well, with that, chat, we are all done tonight. We are all the way done. So just wanted to make sure you guys understood what's going on out there. There's a lot to deal with. I think I got everything. Hold on here. Let me see. Yep, all done. We're all caught up. We're all caught up. Thumb Ugly says, Ghost in a Shell, SAC, predicted the U.S. war in the South. Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, once again, this is like clear and present danger on steroids. Because you read the book, the Air Force had, a squadron of F-15s that were shooting down the drug planes. But we're doing this on like a massive fucking scale out in the open now. So the only thing we're missing is operations into Venezuela by JSOC units. But at this point, who fucking knows if that's not happening at, DevGru or other tier 1 units have done some, sneaky snake stuff yet or not. We don't really know at this point. Who knows? Did I cover text redistricting? Yes, I did. Right at the beginning. Yes. Oh. Durda says, we had regular ground force in Colombia. Yes, we had elements of JSOC in Colombia to help hunt down Pablo Escobar. Delta Force, and I believe what would be called, oh, God, what are they called? ISR. ICA, I think, is what they're called. What is that thing called? Oh God, it's what are they called? It's a intelligence support activity, ISA. Yes. These guys, if you never heard of them, these guys are some sneaky snakes. It is a very, very elite intelligence group in JSOC, also known as Task Force Orange. They've been involved in doing all kinds of intelligence and signals work. And these are the guys that helped hunt down Pablo Escobar and helped the Colombians kill him. So, yes. We had the 82nd train the Colombian army. Yeah, well, there's also like 7th group is now running around in Mexico or will be soon to do all that. Let's see here. Yes, Stephen Cooper, right, yes. The intelligence support activity. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's it's very interesting what those guys do, and I'm sure that they're probably involved in that, but they're the guys who helped kill Pablo, along with some Delta Force guys. So, chat, with that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Like I said, it might be late. Gotta go see if I can go get a deer. Probably not. Maybe I'll have to wait till Saturday, but I'm going to try. Chat. I'm going to try. Let's see here. Anything else? Yep. No, I think we're all set. Make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, guys. So if you guys want to join us over at potentiallycriminal.locals.com. Promo code fall 2025. Join us. We are going to hang out and do some fun stuff. And from here, that is it. So I will see you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, guys, just remember, as always, until next time, just because you did it does not mean you are guilty. Especially if you're Letitia James Ready, still not guilty. If you're these Venezuelan guys in the boats, well, you're getting a flare-ud with a Hellfire missile, so I guess you're guilty at that point. So, anyways, good night, chat. You guys take care, and I will see ya.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy?